And this is Reality Check on the extremist beat. A second civil war. That's a phrase that should frighten you. It's an obscene idea, given that 750,000 Americans died in the Civil War more than 150 years ago. But in recent years, as we've seen partisan politics deepen their divide along regional, racial, and ideological lines, loudly denying the legitimacy of the opposition, we've watched distrust escalate while hate proliferates. And with it, we've seen a sickening uptick in Second Civil War rhetoric. It's grown from self-styled militia members and extremists online, crossed over into conservative populist protests, and even conservative members of Congress. Ex-President Donald Trump retweeted warnings about a second civil war to inflame his base ahead of his first impeachment. Talk of a national divorce by the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Alabama's Mo Brooks, and North Carolina's Madison Cawthorn.
If our election systems continue to be rigged and continue to be stolen, then it's going to lead to one place, and it's bloodshed. And I will tell you, as much as I'm willing to defend our liberty at all costs, there's nothing that I would dread doing more than having to pick up arms against a fellow American.
And I don't mention this because I think a second civil war is likely, but it's no longer unthinkable to many people, which erodes trust in our democracy.
It's amazing how short of an attention span the population has. We go throughout our lives being herded into agendas that the majority cannot see. The memory span only lasts as long as news cycles do. The powers that be move us through one agenda, they focus upon it until we reach the next agenda. And then once the new agenda comes into view, the general public quickly forgets about the last agenda they were just taken through. For instance, it wasn't more than 6 months ago that we were in a worldwide pandemic. Everything we heard about for the last 2 years was about a virus that they forced the population to protect itself from. This was all around the world, and it was continuously covered. You honestly could not escape this coverage. But one day, in this year of 2022, right before Biden makes his State of the Union speech, they say the pandemic is done. People stop wearing the mask, and everyone starts hugging each other, and just like that, the pandemic was over. People seem to have forgotten that they went through a full year of many being forced to receive their solution. That people's jobs and way of life were threatened if they did not comply. It's like people simply forgot that this just happened. And then, right after the pandemic was declared over, the world was moved into a whole new agenda of conflict with Russia invading Ukraine. And this has now been the main agenda that is bringing along other agendas, like the scapegoat of inflation and this coming recession. And they have our attention and focus on these agendas, all the way until the next agenda arrives. It's so scary how this is all happening, because what seems so evident and plain to see seems to be something that is oblivious to the masses. We are headed to a new world order that is coming after the world is reset, and they have been moving us steadily towards this agenda. The last few years have not been anything close to normal, but yet people are just walking through the times with their faces stuck on their phones saying, "Nothing to see here." It is during these times that my heart becomes very heavy for our world and our society, because I am watching people walk directly towards the edge of a cliff, and they seem confident about the direction they're going. People are so easily moved by nonsense, garbage, and what is easily seen to be pure lies. People are reacting to what is sold to them as leaks, and from them, they're being driven and provoked to anger, being led into the next civil war. It is very important that you understand that you are being provoked. The United States is being divided, and the people are being manipulated. They want you tied to it. They want you to pick a side and be part of the chaos. Issues are arising that will move you and provoke you to take a stance. The United States grew in its abundance and strength after the first Civil War, after all the states were united into being part of one country. The next Civil War will contribute to the fall of the country by dividing what was once so united. Regardless of where you stand on certain issues, if you take part in this conflict, all of you are a pawn being used to achieve a satanic goal and agenda. It is time that you wake up and make sure your life is moving towards the spreading of our Father's kingdom and His purpose, and not being led by your flesh that will lead you to destruction. This country is headed toward a civil war. Make sure you are not a part of it. We'll discuss it to make sure you understand why not. Let's begin. Okay, so civil war. I know we've heard slight mentions to this before. We've heard we are being led into a race war, into a social class war, a political war. The country is just divided, and depending on who you are, there are a bunch of different battles and fights you can choose. But in the end, the sides seem to be all the same, and the result will absolutely be the same. If you don't live in America, you might feel that this doesn't pertain to you, but it actually does, whether you live in America or not. At some point, you will see the fall of Mystery Babylon, and it is important that you are not so tied to it that you weep for it because your heart is attached to it, or you turn back to it like Lot's wife. It's probably likely that when you hear about a civil war in America, you could be like, who cares? Maybe in your country, there are always civil wars or rebellions. But what happens in America will affect the world. So it is important that your perspective, whether you live here or not, is based on Father and His will. Now, I live in America, and being that this country has been brought up in abundance and riches, its inhabitants, unfortunately, are not able to see anything but a future with America leading. Americans seem to believe that the world revolves around them. It is a sort of dangerous entitlement that they can't seem to break away from. Like, I can't explain how many times people get upset with me because I refer to the Most High by Yah, a name they can clearly find in their Bibles if they actually read it. They want me to refer to Yahusha in his Anglo-Saxon English transliteration as if he was an American. They speak as if the Bible is an English book, when it was simply translated for our generation. It's because of this entitlement that the majority are not able to clearly see what is coming to this country that they place on high. As a believer, as I watch the sins of this nation, as I watch how it spreads its wine of wrath of her fornication upon the world, as it is the biggest influence of Satanism in the history of the world, I understand that judgment is truly upon the land. America is Mystery Babylon, a land that was prophesied about thousands of years ago. So when I see how the people are today and how they act as if the future will only be bright for them, it is just a confirmation of scripture and prophecy. For instance, how it is prophesied in Revelation chapter 18, verse 7. In the measure that she glorify herself and live luxuriously, in the same measure give her torment and sorrow. For she says in her heart, I sit as queen and am no widow, and will not see sorrow. Now, I've made a couple videos on this topic of Mystery Babylon. One specific video, and also spoken about in the Book of Revelation series. If you want to understand this more, you should watch those videos. But I brought all this up because it's not as if Father has this judgment on this land and he is leaving us oblivious to it. It's not as if he's not providing warnings and evidence of this. It's also very clear to understand that this world is moving towards a new world order, which I have explained in many different videos. While we are speaking about nations fighting nations, it should always be understood that the world is actually being prepared for a one world government. And this government cannot come into existence while this current old order is present. And who controls this current world order? Yeah, that's right. The United States leads the current world order. And they have made many statements of recent that they are working to protect this.
And again, the purpose is clear: to collapse the liberal international order. Simply put, Mr. Putin has a different vision of the future.
If you step back from all the day-to-day devastation happening in Ukraine, it is impossible to not see this as a pivotal moment in history. This is the first time in the 30-some years since the end of the Cold War that we have come to think of as the global order is being utterly transformed.
But again, if you understand the world that is prophesied to come, you would understand that the United States will not be in control if prophecy is to be fulfilled. It can't be a new world order if the current world order is still in control. So I say all that to say, my focus on the United States is not because I believe that the world revolves around it, more than I understand that it is the leader of the current world order. So if the new world order is to come, we would be seeing the decline of power of the leader of this current world order. And if after all this you cannot see that, then you simply need more discernment and guidance from Yah. But in the fall of the current world order, it won't just happen by external attack. It's both external and internal that truly weaken an empire and nation. We can often talk a great deal about what is happening externally with geopolitical events, but it is important to discuss what is happening internally as well. Because while the financial and geopolitical events are important, they are also about the entire world. So that must be covered in reference to world defense. But it's what's happening internally in the United States that also must be understood. There is an entire agenda that is provoking pure separation and division within the United States. When I speak about this agenda, I'll always like to use this clip from the Marvel movie Captain America: Civil War, because he explains it very simply.
An empire toppled by its enemies can rise again, but one which crumbles from within, that's dead. Forever.
You see, when a nation is being destroyed, if it is just a financial collapse, the nation can be rebuilt. If it is attacked or invaded, the empire can fight back. In fact, these situations actually bring people together for a common cause, and it can often mend divisions. But like he said in that clip, an empire that falls from the inside,
that's dead.
That won't be coming back. And so it's extremely important to understand that a civil war is coming to America. It sounds ironic, I know, but in the end, it probably was all planned that in the rise of this country, it was known as the United States. But in its fall, it will be known as the divided states of America. Now, the sides of the Civil War are all clear, and both sides believe that they are on the right side of history. They have promoted it through the concept of duality, red versus blue. They displayed that specifically in that movie Captain America: Civil War. It was all about duality in that movie. All the opposition is split right down the line, equally separating the nation. All the divisions are split down the middle so that there are no real line crossers. Let me show you what I mean. Using this symbolism of duality, there is a red team and a blue team, and they are divided like this. There is the rich versus the poor. Let's just put the rich in the red and the poor in the blue. Then we have the Republicans versus the Democrats. This should be obvious where we would classify each one as. Also, in our political environment, we see that there is a division between capitalists and socialists. The capitalists, as a majority, are with the Republicans, so they go on the red. The socialists are with the Democrats, so they are on the blue. Then you have the Trump supporters, what is now just classified as MAGA, those that they speak about when referencing that January 6th event at the Capitol, or those that are running for office in these midterm elections. You put those people in the red, and you put the Biden supporters, those that promoted the solution, those who just hate Trump to the core and think MAGA are just a bunch of racists. You put them in the blue. You have those that are pro-gun in the red and those that are about gun control in the blue. You have conservative values in red and liberal values in blue. You have the right-wing organizations like the KKK and the NRA in the red, and you have the left-wing organizations like Black Lives Matter and Antifa in the blue. And it's also racially divided. Because of the killings of the unarmed black men and women, black people in this country have been grafted into the side of the blue. And the police and white Americans with racist views, closet or out in the open, they're on the side of the red. I mean, even the churches are split up red versus blue, which makes no sense, but they are. This is the division of right versus left. This is the symbolism of duality in real time in America. And these issues are just being provoked more and more day by day, and there are no real solutions to how things will ever get better. This is the division and the lines of what looks like to be another civil war. But it's all intentional. One way you can tell this for sure is by looking at the coverage by the media. Our media has the power to shape our minds and our thoughts. This is because they are the reporters of what we believe to be true or what is happening. And in our news coverage in the United States, it is completely partisan. and separated by views and sides. People aren't just looking to hear the news and let themselves make their own minds up. No, they're looking to hear the news and then be told how they should feel about it. The news is either from a perspective of the left or the right. Like we have Fox News on the right or MSNBC on the left. Same color codes. And CNN now has become on the left when they were once more independent. It's actually really unbearable to listen to if you don't find yourself on either of these sides. But if you do give it brief moments of attention, hearing it from both sides, you can see how both sides of the media are about pushing agendas of separation based on their causes.
And tonight, the most incompetent administration in American history strikes again. Now, a dire baby formula shortage is causing panic, understandably. Of course, there is no mystery behind this new crisis. Way back in February, Biden's own FDA halted production at one of the largest baby formula plants in the country. But today, our very indignant president declared that there's just no way he could have seen this coming. Watch this.
You look at all the instances where white replacement theory, which has been pushed by House Republicans, pushed by a powerful news network, pushed by people on social media, and you do see that it's whites, a white killing blacks in a mass shooting in Charleston, and then in New Zealand, and then killing Hispanics in El Paso, and killing blacks again in Buffalo, killing Jews in Pittsburgh in 2018 in a synagogue. It is sadly, tragically, it is a conspiracy theory that has deadly impact.
And to add to this, we have our leaders, who should be about bringing the country together, who actually ran on that platform and the promise of bringing people together.
We need to revive the spirit of bipartisanship in this country. I know that sounds bizarre in light of where we are. The spirit of being able to work with one another. When I say that, and I said that from the time I announced, I was told that maybe that was the way things used to work, Joe. You got a lot done before, Joe, but you can't do that anymore. Well, I'm here to tell you and say we can. There will be no blue states and red states with me. It's one America. I'll work with Democrats and Republicans. I'll work as hard for those who vote against me as those who voted for me.
They also are contributing to the division. Like in Biden's speech about inflation. Because he didn't really have much to say, he just decided to talk about the divisions. And if you listen close to his words, he brought up the MAGA folks and spoke about how important it was to stop them.
But the fact is, congressional Republicans, not all of them, but the mega Republicans are counting on you to be as frustrated by the pace of progress, which they've done everything they can to slow down, that will hand power over to them and enact so they can enact their extreme agenda. Let me say this carefully. I never expected the ultra MAGA Republicans who seem to control the Republican Party now to have been able to control the Republican Party. I never anticipated that happening. What are the next things that are going to be attacked? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history, in recent American history.
You see, they are just helping with the drawing of the lines of separation.
This ain't your father's Republican Party. This is the MAGA party now.
And so now that we have all these lines of separation drawn, and we have the media outlets with their assigned assignments to keep the fire lit, all they need are the right events to happen that are so polarizing and controversial, and the end result of them all will be conflict and war. We are seeing events being provoked that are all about division. For instance, this situation in reference to the overturning of Roe v. Wade, it is very easy to see the manufactured manipulation of this issue. Like, at a time as unstable as we are in today, The fact that they are looking to now overturn a decision they made almost 50 years ago is ridiculous. This agenda about Roe vs. Wade is not a very difficult thing to understand. People are being manipulated because people keep arguing about topics and issues that should never be argued about. The liberal sides like to frame this argument as the right for a woman to do what they want to do with their bodies. The last few weeks, I kept seeing people post thoughts like, men shouldn't have the right to tell a woman what to do with their bodies. I mean, it was so cringe when hypocrite Kamala Harris said the same thing.
It also protects a woman's right to make decisions about what she does with her own body. Those Republican leaders who are trying to weaponize the use of the law against women, well, we say, how dare they? How dare they tell a woman what she can do and cannot do with her own body? How dare they?
I mean, we are really at a sad, critical point in history when a government official as high as her can go on stage and act like that a few months after doing the very same thing she is speaking against.
Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down. And so right now we know we still have a number of people that is in the millions of Americans who have not been vaccinated and could be vaccinated, and we are urging them to get vaccinated because it will save their life.
At what point does the administration acknowledge these people aren't going to get the shot? They're just not going to do it.
I don't believe in giving up on people, Craig. I really don't.
I mean, the people who listen to all this and allow themselves to be moved by all this literally have their eyes and minds straight closed. I mean, she just spoke about how dare they tell a woman what she can do with their own body. How dare they deny a woman their rights and their freedoms. But we are literally coming off of a period in time where her administration did just that. They told everyone, including women, what they had to put in their bodies, and they denied people's freedoms if they did not comply. So it is obviously completely hypocritical. But you know what? They know that already. They know that they're being hypocrites. But they also know that to their audience, it doesn't even matter. The scary part is not these hypocrites and what they are saying. The scary part are the people that are listening to them and that cannot see the obvious hypocrisy. I mean, it's not like we are years past the distribution of the solution to the pandemic. It's not something that should be far from our minds of remembrance. But yet people cannot see the obvious hypocrisy because they are all trapped into mental bondage. People being led to destruction and judgment. Now, on the other side of this Roe vs. Wade debate are those that are obviously fighting against abortion. Their argument is one that says abortion is murder. And let me be abundantly clear. I do agree with that point of view. But let me explain that I do not attach myself with their argument. If I were to debate about these things being a right in this country or not, it would be because I believe that this country was built off of rules of morality, rules of righteousness. But I don't believe that. In a country where satanic worship is on the rise, where our entertainment from movies, television, and music contain the most explicit content containing sex, drugs, violence, lies, deceptions, blasphemy, why would I be arguing about this one issue when the whole country as a whole is a part of the acceptance of most things that I find to be evil? I do not attach myself or my family to the moral issues in this country. Now, I obviously have my own view on most of these issues, and I live my life according to them, and I raise my children in accordance with those views. But in regards to the laws of the land, my personal view doesn't matter. And because of my spiritual understanding, I choose not to participate in all of these polarized dramas. I don't argue about abortion. I don't get in that debate about whether those things should be allowed or not. I will speak my view specifically on what Yah's people should do and what they shouldn't do. This matter of abortion should be found nowhere close to the church. It should not be something even spoken about when someone likes to be a devil's advocate. I won't hear it. I have my specific view and I hold to it unconditionally. But this is not about the assembly of Yah. So his assembly should stay out of it. For a believer, the only way we influence the world is through our lifestyle and our conduct. We don't fight Satan and his ways through the system he built and the system he controls. That is foolish, and we have no power there. We are the light of the world and influence the world through our intolerance to sin, through being an example of the way to do things, by raising our children in strong morals and values so they will continue to promote the right way to live when they have children. That is how a believer lives as the light of the world. Those that go out and stand with a picket sign or talk about the power of their vote are just deceived and attached to a system designed for their mental enslavement. This agenda about Roe vs. Wade is being used just to provoke both sides to division and conflict. It's like just one more major issue that people feel they need to fight or protect. If you listen to Joe Biden and especially Kamala Harris, they are not promoting peace. Kamala is promoting anger and asking for action if it's overturned.
If the court overturns Roe v. Wade, it will be a direct assault on freedom, on the fundamental right of self-determination to which all Americans are entitled. Roe protects the right to access abortion. It also protects a woman's right to make decisions about what she does with her own body. We have been on the front lines of this fight for many years, all of us in this together. And now we enter a new phase. There is nothing hypothetical about this moment. And it has never been more clear which party wants to expand our rights and which party wants to restrict them. But we're not going back. We are not going back. Because at our core, the strength of our country is that we fight to move forward, being of women, with so many of you in this room. And now, once again, friends, we must link arms in this fight. I invite all people to join us. If you stand for freedom, for self-determination, for the right to privacy, if you stand for these principles, stand with us. So to all here I say, let us fight for our country and for the principles upon which it was founded, and let us fight with everything we have got. God bless you and God bless America.
Just the other week, senators quickly passed a bill expanding security for families of Supreme Court justices. An article from Politico says that law enforcement officials across the country are preparing for unrest in the wake of the Supreme Court's anticipated reversal of Roe v. Wade. They are preparing for unrest. It's because they're sparking flames on a fire of division. It's manufactured division used to promote unrest and anger. And when it gets overturned and a state actually charges a person with murder for committing abortion, there will be too much uproar and unrest to deal with. Now, let's please not forget that right before this Roe v. Wade nonsense, there was this whole fake controversy on the bill in Florida that they decided to label Don't Say Gay Bill. Ironically, by them labeling it this, everyone was saying gay continuously. It was on the lips of everyone attached to it. In the news, anybody that wanted to have their own opinion on it. But there was a division about the LGBTQ community, and it's not even a real controversy. It's just people upset about not being able to teach little children about it. You see, these are polarizing issues looking to spark divide and conflict in the hearts of a population. This is manufactured division and conflict. And including with this, don't forget about this Capitol insurrection they keep talking about. I mean, they will not let up the news about this. Always someone going to jail, or what Trump knew and didn't know during that time. Trump needing to turn in some papers. Trump. That's all they keep talking about. There is a reason why they keep all of this going in the public's mind, not allowing everyone to forget. All of this is about highlighting the divisions within the country and then polarizing them. Also a part in this civil war is the division between the rich and the poor. As inflation continues to get higher, the contrast between the rich and the poor will continue to be used. Biden himself loves to make himself sound as if he is one of the regular middle-class folk and a champion of the people.
I understand what it feels like. I come from a family where when the price of gas or food went up, we felt it. It was a discussion at the kitchen table. I come from a family. I mean, this is that goes for you. The price of gasoline went up significantly, the price of food went up. Well, that's what we talked about at the dinner table and the kitchen table. And a lot.
And he loves to make it about the rich versus the poor. He says the wealthy need to pay more and do more. And because there are so many at the bottom, they love to hear things like this. And as inflation continues to grow, and the people can't eat or drive to work, but the rich are on their yachts eating real meat, all of this will contribute to the anger that has been provoked for this civil war. There is already the racial tensions already stirred up amongst the people. Now this is not changing, but if any more racial events happen, you can just imagine what this will do as well.
This is where justice lives, and this is where racism ends. And pick the wrong city.
The 18-year-old suspect, Peyton Gendron, had driven more than 200 miles to launch the atrocity, deliberately targeting a neighborhood that he knew to be predominantly African American.
Again, our memory is so short-sighted. It wasn't that long ago when there were protests and riots in major cities across the country about George Floyd. This will come back when the proper fire is ignited. They are already promoting racial tensions by speaking about attacks against voting rights and things like that. There is constant mention of attacks against people's civil rights. Biden just made a speech on May 11th at a Democratic national fundraiser saying all these things. He loves to say we are at a battle for the soul of this nation. Please don't think that this common phrase he used is just symbolic.
I've said it many times, and it's no more true or real when we think about the events of January 6th. We are in a battle for the soul of America. A battle that by the grace of God and the goodness and greatness of this nation, we will win.
There are so many different examples of different voices leading their groups of division. It's like they've started a bunch of mini fires all over the country that will at one point join together to burn the whole country down. There will be war and chaos in the streets, and you must not be a part of that. We have been programmed in so much of our entertainment to expect something like this. I remember specifically this movie called Kingsman, and in order to help climate change, Samuel L. Jackson had an idea that he was just going to have people fight and kill each other by sending off a signal from their phones. Now, regardless if you care about how it was done through the phone or not, their goal was civil chaos and conflict to achieve their mission. What do you think that those Purge movies are all about? In one of those movies, I think it was the first Purge, the trailer showed that the government actually disguised themselves as civilians participating in the Purge in order to increase the participation rate of the violence and crimes. And in another movie, that alien movie, Knowing, with Nicolas Cage, at the end, when the world was about to end, there was pure conflict and chaos. People fighting each other. I could show many more examples if I just think hard enough. But it's all around. This is called predictive programming. But either way, there is a real threat of civil war in the United States. And it threatens all who live in the world, because their unrest will lead to the United States removal as a superpower, which will bring about a global reset. If you are in the United States, you should be seeing this forming. You should be seeing the potential risk. There is not one adult American that should be able to say that they don't see the divides in this country. And though the media may not be covering all the potentially alarming events, you have to be sleeping under a rock to not notice that we are approaching a tipping point here. The month of June is always a very rocky one, that I would watch for, being that they're celebrating Pride Month, which really pushes a lot of division. All the people need is a spark, and it looks very much like this debate with Roe vs. Wade could be the main spark to the fire. So with all that I've said and mentioned, I speak to the believers in this country to make sure that you are not attaching yourself to these divisions. You see, what is happening is that these issues that are coming up are all used to tie each person in this country to the chaos. I mean, maybe you don't care that much about abortion, but racial issues are definitely something that moves you. Or maybe it's not racial issues, but you're unhappy about how much the rich keep getting over. Or maybe you're speaking against the LGBT community, or you hate that socialism stuff, or you really hate Trump and think all that support him are racist. I mean, I can keep going on and on with the different issues. It honestly doesn't matter what your feelings are, more than you understanding that these issues are so polarized and out in the open because they are trying to sway you. They're trying to move you. They want you attached to a certain feeling or issue so that either you participate in the chaos physically or emotionally. Either way, you support a side and you're in it. You are being used as a pawn, and it is for no reason because none of it matters. This world is moving in one direction, and it is towards a satanic kingdom that they are all fighting for, both red and blue. So for fighting for righteousness, the way they have provoked you to do it, it's all about you losing and being taken advantage of. Do not take a side in this civil war. Though you may sympathize with either side for some reason, this is not your fight. It is artificially created to provoke change. Do not be a puppet. This is all spiritual, and it's about what God do you serve. And by standing on one side or another, you are fighting with the world, regardless if you feel your position makes sense. If you are fighting for conservative, biblical values, fighting this civil war will not bring them about. If you're trying to get more help for the needy and the poor, fighting this civil war will not bring that about. If you're trying to stop socialism, fighting this civil war will not bring that about. If you're trying to keep your guns, fighting this civil war will not bring it about. And please be clear, because this is how they're baiting you. If you're trying to fight racism, you need to wake up. Fighting this civil war will not bring that about. They are just using you as bait. They used us to build the country, and they're using us to destroy it. Don't be used. Trying to fight against abortion will not stop it. Those on the right that are on this red column should know that you are gearing up to be a scapegoat. The conservative side loses in this battle, and they will always be a scapegoat. The world does not want your conservative values, and participating in this drama, you are just tying yourself to them and putting a target directly on your back. You are fighting a fight you will lose. This is not a time for war. This is a time for prayer and worship. We are in the end times, and the labor pains are increasing. You have only one option. Surrender your life to the will of Elohim. Believe in his son, Yeshua Hamashiach. Put your life in his hands, because it may seem like this is all about protecting your rights, your freedom, your family, your money, etc. But that's deception that is blocking you from the truth. And the truth is that what you need to be protecting is your soul, and making sure you are living for Yah, the only one who truly only matters. We are called to be set apart and spread the love of Messiah to prepare for his kingdom. If you believe in scripture, you should understand that there is Bible prophecy of what is to come, and none of the scripture and prophecy calls us to fight and protest for our rights. Satan is the god of this world. Do you think protesting to him and his system changes anything? Your only role is to be a true believer who leads through example, who draws people to Messiah through the word. You have to really ask yourself, is fighting and debating with people that are against you and what you stand for what Yah really desires for you? You must put Yah's will in the forefront of your mind and commit your life to his will. I'm not saying you don't talk about these things and discuss these things. I do that all day long. I'm speaking about the ones that just walk in anger, that go into these comment rooms and fight with people and talking in disrespect and then using the Bible as your source. It's just too much. You shouldn't be doing that. Don't say that you're doing something for him that is really about proving your own righteousness. Or maybe it's because you can't control your flesh. Or maybe that you're just too convicted by this topic. None of that matters. We are responsible for Yah's kingdom, not the United States. By debating online with the ignorant, by fighting outside with those who are just coming against you, you're fighting the fight the way Satan wants you to fight. He's drawing you in. We do not war in the flesh. That is not our way. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. That's 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 3. Being set apart calls us to not engage in the world the way our flesh provokes us to. We must not conform to the ways of this world. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to Elohim, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. That's Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. As things heat up and controversy happens, you must be prepared for it. And that's why I made this video, so you can mentally prepare yourself for the conflicts they are promoting, and you know that you should not engage with them. Please make sure you're not taking sides in their artificially created duality. Be awake to the real world that you're in, and be prepared when and if things go sideways. Do not prepare to take it to the streets and be on one of the sides. Don't be a Trump or MAGA supporter, and don't be an anti-Trump supporter. None of that matters, and the more you allow yourself to think like this, the more you're controlled by your enemy. Prepare so you are not affected in their games. There are too many major risks going on in this world right now for you just to ignore all these things. Hope for the best, yes, but be prepared for the worst. I have a preparation list in the description box of this video. For more advice on how to prepare, just click that link. But no matter what your physical preparations are, the only thing that matters right now is your relationship with our Father. Make him your focus and use these events as a temperature gauge so you know that you don't have a lot of time to get this right. Babylon is fallen. It's fallen. Do not fight for her. Pray for the souls being deceived by her, and be a testimony of the living God and draw people to his gift of redemption and salvation. There is a civil war coming, but it's not for you. There is something evil brewing, and you must wake up and be set free from it all, so you are not consumed by the extent of their wicked fire. Stay holy and stay set apart. Be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please make sure to like it and share it with others. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. Elohim willing, I upload every Friday. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. As always, I'd like to thank all who donate and contribute to this ministry. Your donations are truly a blessing to this ministry. Thank you for your love and support and letting our Father use you. You are truly a blessing, and I really appreciate your support. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again everyone for watching. I love you all.